Coming up, in less than 24 hours, South Korea's football team will play its round of 16 game against the world's #1, Brazil, who also are currently the favorites to win the whole tournament. South Korean players say they will fight until the end. A back-to-work order could be issued against striking truck drivers in the oil and steel industries as President Yoon orders his cabinet to be ready to issue the order. This as the nation's gas stations are struggling to supply their customers. Plus, South Korea's Trade Minister is in the U.S. to deliver the country's concerns over the new Inflation Reduction Act. Meanwhile, in Europe, the head of the EU Commission wants to counter the act with its own new subsidies law. Good morning. Welcome to New Day at Arirang. We begin this morning as the South Korean national football team is gearing up for its round of 16 match, which takes place in the early hours of Tuesday morning here in South Korea. This is South Korea's first knockout game at the tournament in 12 years, and their opponents don't come much tougher. World Cup favorites Brazil. Used to being labeled underdogs, Paulo Bento's players promise to fight until the end. Our Lee Seung-jae leads us off this morning.
The celebrations for South Korea advancing to the knockout stages are now a thing of the past. The players are back training again. However, after a nice day's rest, the atmosphere on the training ground was bright.
It's the first time in 12 years that we've advanced to the round of 16. We've played football like we wanted in the 3 group matches and we brought the results here.
Wolverhampton striker Hwang Hee-chan, who scored the winner against Portugal on Friday, took part in training without any discomfort after sitting out the first 2 group stage matches. However, South Korea's top defender Kim Min-jae, who was sidelined with an injury for the Portugal game, worked on his fitness away from his teammates on a stationary bike. With a front line of Brazilian attackers such as Neymar, Richarlison, and Vinicius Jr., South Korean fans will be hoping that the Napoli star can be ready to go.
As we have done so far, we'll play games that shows everything we are capable of. I think we've proven that we are a team that never gives up.
Brazil, which is looking to win its 6th World Cup, were also busy on the training ground, preparing for their match with the Taeguk Warriors. Much of the attention was on Neymar, who missed the majority of the group stages due to an ankle injury. However, the news is that he has recovered and the striker is back in contention for a starting berth. While Gabriel Jesus and Alex Telles are out with injuries, Brazil's array of superstars is more than capable of causing problems for Paulo Bento's men. It'll be a David versus Goliath nonetheless. South Korea, ranked 28th in the world, faces off against top-ranked Brazil in the win-or-go-home match at 10 p.m. Monday at Stadium 974 in Doha, or 4 a.m. Tuesday in South Korea. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol asked his cabinet to be ready to issue an imminent back-to-work order on striking truck drivers in oil and steel industries. During a meeting of related ministers on Sunday, President Yoon said oil, steel, and other sectors that are expected to see additional damages should be ready to issue an imminent return-to-work order as the economy is being taken hostage by the striking truckers. Such an order would be the second by the South Korean government since Yoon invoked a start work, the first in the country's history, order earlier this week since thousands of truckers went on strike more than 10 days ago over minimum pay rules. Now, continuing with the trucker strike, which has also meant major disruptions for the transport of gasoline. An increasing number of gas stations are reporting that they are out of fuel, and those that can get supplies are saying that it's not enough to satisfy demand. Our Lee Dae-yeon has more.
Gasoline sold out. More and more gas stations across the nation are displaying these notices at their forecourts. The reason? A strike by truckers that entered its 12th day on Monday here in South Korea, causing disruption to the gasoline supply. That's left gas station managers scurrying to find fuel truck drivers who have not joined the protests. But even if they find someone, it's not easy for stations to get enough of what they want. A standard gasoline truck has a capacity of 24,000 liters, but stations are lucky if they are able to receive half that amount. Now, franchise head offices have ordered that supplies should be shared with other stations. That means supplies at a busy station may only last for a single day.
I went to another gas station but couldn't get fuel, so now I'm here.
A shortage of fuel is also affecting drivers of business vehicles like cargo trucks and delivery motorcycles too. These drivers are cautiously monitoring the situation as uncertainty looms over when the strike will be resolved.
Without gas, we can't drive. Although I'm a truck driver myself, I hope this issue is resolved soon.
The strike and the associated disruptions mean the petrochemical industry has lost more than $902 million since the protest began. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
South Korea's Trade Minister Han Duck-soo says the government will look to maximize the interest of Korean companies as the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act will impact the country's automakers negatively. Following his arrival in Washington on Sunday, Trade Minister Han also noted that it's difficult to predict what U.S. President Biden meant by tweaks to the act. Biden had mentioned the need for adjustments after holding talks with his French counterpart last week. Han added that Washington agreed on the need to deal with some unexpected issues regarding the act and that the two sides are continuing working level discussions. The trade minister will meet with the U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai and senior advisor to the president John Podesta during the 5-day visit. Now, staying on the Inflation Reduction Act, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says that the bloc will adopt a new aid package to support European businesses in order to counter the Inflation Reduction Act in the U.S. Von der Leyen on Sunday said in a speech that competition is good, but this competition must respect a level playing field, adding, "We must take action to rebalance the playing field where the IRA and other measures create distortions." This comes as the IRA excludes European firms from the subsidies that the law provides and could put European companies at a risk of losing their positions in the U.S. This includes automakers and green energy providers. Earlier on Sunday, the European Parliament's Trade Committee Chairman Bernd Lange said the bloc should file a complaint with the World Trade Organization, but that the committee believes it won't make much difference as the law has already been passed by Washington. Today is the 59th National Trade Day here in South Korea. The day was designated back in the mid-1960s to promote South Korea's exports while recognizing the efforts of local companies to export their products. South Korea has come a long way since then and is now one of the 10 largest economies in the world. But recently, the trade deficit has grown and overseas competitors have caught up to South Korean companies. Where does the country go from here? We have Cho Sung-dae, Director of the Center for Trade Studies and Cooperation at Korea International Trade Association with us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Cho.
Good morning.
Now, South Korea's trade deficit continues to grow. When do you expect export levels to go back up? How are things looking for 2023?
We are seeing more reasons, some reasons affecting trade deficits, such as prolonged war in Ukraine, continued conflict between the U.S. and China, and the fatigues accumulated for 3 years of pandemic. Having said that, Korea's exports are not that bad, actually. By September, exports of Germany and Japan had grown by less than 2%, but Korea's export growth rate was more than 10%. Korea's export ranking rose to 6, which was 7th last year. One of the reasons that we see sluggish export growth, which is quite big, is the base effect of fourth quarter of last year. In 2023, Korea's export is expected to reach $662 billion, which is 4% reduction from this year. Advanced economies recovering from inflation or having recession, and China's economic stimulation package after easing the zero-corona policy. These are two key points to Korea's export returning back to growth.
Right, and as we just seen, the trade minister is now in Washington, D.C. regarding the Inflation Reduction Act, and has been making headlines recently. And many U.S. politicians have promised to make adjustments to the current law to accommodate Korean cars, especially. Is this likely to happen, or is it at this point inevitable that Korean automakers will have to face some damages?
Yes, it's been quite an issue, but at the same time, I'd like to point out that in Korea, the IRA was not reviewed or explained thoroughly. many people in Korea focused on some provisions regarding electric vehicles and the batteries of EV. Yes, it is very important and also very problematic. However, the Inflation Reduction Act deals with rebuilding the reconstruction of the U.S. economy, and its industry is spending huge amount of money. That can provide quite good opportunities to Korean business or industries related to green growth. Personally, I'm not that optimistic on whether the act would reduce inflation, but very positive that the IRA will contribute to the economic change and industrial competitiveness. Going back to your question about amendment or adjustment of IRA, personally, I don't see that will happen in several months. I'm not saying there is no possibility, but amending a law which became effective 6 months ago is quite difficult. And even the law is evaluated very good in DC. I heard that some people expect that the Republican majority in the House would signals for any change to the IRA, but what the GOP might make as political issue is a big federal expenditure, not electric vehicle supply chain as far as I know. I'm not saying that it is not important or meaningful that Korea points out the problem and require the amendment. However, we need to face political reality in the DC. President Macron from France raised this issue the other day, but the White House answered no to the amendment after President Biden shows a tiny glimpse of possible change. It is my understanding that there is no fundamental solution without amendment. However, the Treasury and IRS are making the guidance to implement the IRA, and hopefully there must be some creative way to at least to minimize any negative impact on Korean businesses. Regarding Korean car sales, there might be some drop in Korean car sales in the US, but it might be a part of the result that the IRA brings. I cannot be sure, but Korean car sales may increase next year because consumers will spend more money on EVs. Bigger market size will make more car sales opportunities for Korean EVs.
Right, and Hyundai Group has been doing very well in the U.S. market recently, and I want to talk about that more. So autos and semiconductors have been the main export goods for South Korea, but now that today is trade day, I wanted to talk about the future, right? What are some future goods that South Korea can maybe invest in, or in terms of future positive aspects? Is the country expected to continue to depend on semiconductors and automobiles for foreseeable future, or are we seeing new industries coming up?
Semiconductors accounts for more than 20% of Korean exports. People took off masks and started to spend more time outside than inside with their TVs and other smart devices. That explains the decrease of semiconductor demand and its price in the world. Any big change in Korean key export items for the time being? I will say no. Digital transformation gets more speed. The Korean government does not want to lose its status as semiconductor powerhouse. Automobile is another powerful sector. Korea's EV sells very good these days, and as we talked earlier, and they are very popular not only in the US but also in the Europe. So Korean car makers will show valuable growth. But a couple of minutes ago, we talked about the IRA and similar policy change and possible trade pattern change. IRA makes major car makers to build EVs in the US if they want to sell their EVs in the US and EV batteries too. Chips and Science Act of August this year makes chip makers to build their semiconductors in the US. EU announced similar policy objectives and started to draft their rules, and they are drafting their rules to provide more subsidies to their industries. I do not have clear vision for what this will bring and what Korean export-oriented economy should prepare. Is it dark like a perfect storm, or shiny days are coming after short, heavy rain? I cannot say, but when big things start to move, it looks quite slow, but when it gets speed, it is super fast. What I mean is we are witnessing a huge change of global trade environment, and it's very beginning stage, early stage. So that is why we cannot say any specific results which the change will bring.
Right, and we're just beginning with maybe looking at a long-term semiconductors and automobile. We're just beginning with the export. Well, thank you so much for your insights, and I hope you have a great day, Mr. Cho.
Thank you, you too.
Prime Minister Han Duck-soo is on his way back to South Korea after visiting France, Mozambique, and Ghana. There, he worked to build support for the World Expo 2030 Busan and discuss possible cooperation between the countries and South Korea. Our Lee Si-hoo reports.
Prime Minister Han Duck-soo recently completed his visits to France and 2 countries in Africa, Mozambique and Ghana, where he worked to gain support for the bid for the World Expo 2030 Busan and discuss possible cooperation. Han boarded the plane to South Korea on Saturday night local time from the capital of Ghana, ending his 8-day-long trip. He is due to arrive at Incheon International Airport on Monday morning. In Paris, the Prime Minister delivered a presentation to the World Expo's governing body, BIE, to help with South Korea's bid to host the global event. In his presentation delivered in English and French, he said the World Expo 2030 Busan will present a new kind of expo, a sustainable platform for all humanity to resolve our shared challenges together. Prime Minister Han gave South Korea's case to host the World Expo to BIE representatives from 18 countries. The host will be announced next November after a vote by BIE members. Prime Minister Han next visited Mozambique and Ghana, both members of the BIE. There, he focused on sharing South Korea's vision for the World Expo. Han also discussed strengthening cooperation between the countries and South Korea. Han spoke with the president of Mozambique, Philip Nyusi, about a possible summit between South Korea and countries in Africa in 2024. The Prime Minister also spoke with the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, and emphasized South Korea's will to support and invest in the country. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Now, Arirang TV has been looking for ways to use the metaverse, AI, and extended reality technology to the fullest. The station held a demonstration in Seoul to show how much progress has been made. Our Shin Ye-eun takes us to the scene.
Arirang TV has been fueling its R&D to the max. In other words, it's been investing in the metaverse, AI, and extended reality technology. In a demonstration held Friday, Arirang showed just how much technological progress that's been made in the space of just a year. Like an AI prompter, Arirang is the first broadcaster in Korea to have developed a prompter that recognizes the anchor's voice and scrolls down by itself. Another AI invention to be used in the newsroom is an AI anchor. AI Jennifer will be able to cover news during the weekend or when there's breaking news instead of actual anchors who may not be available at the time. An AI voice secretary will also be available to do voiceovers instead of reporters busy out on site. Arirang has also been using a smart live studio that boasts extended reality technology. This gives producers the chance to create their own virtual studio. It also helps the environment because compared to actual studios that use halogen lights, these XR studios save up to 70% of electricity. It's also aiming to work with more small and middle-sized enterprises and local governments through the metaverse. Arirang will be showing some of South Korea's iconic sites and hosting joint events using the metaverse. The head researcher said Friday's demonstration was a glimpse into Arirang's directive to become a digitally innovative broadcaster.
We realized the best way to do so is by using the latest tech like the metaverse, AI, and XR. We think AI can especially help reduce repetitive, time-consuming work and better boost efficiency.
Arirang TV has been working with 15 small and middle-sized enterprises to change how it produces news and other media content. Developments revealed Friday will be actively used starting early as the beginning of next year. Shin Ye-eun, Arirang News.
Now, for the latest updates from the Qatar 2022 World Cup, we turn to our Matthew Ashley standing by at the Arirang newsroom. Good morning.
Good morning, Do-yeon.
Reigning World Cup champion France is through to the quarterfinals after a 3-1 win against Poland.
Well, that is right. France drew first blood right before half-time after Olivier Giroud found the back of the net. Now, the goal set a new record, making Giroud France's all-time leading men's goal scorer. The second half then saw Kylian Mbappe dominate, scoring France's second goal with a strike into the top of Poland's goal. Mbappe then scored again to seal the win in stoppage time. Mbappe's 2 goals also means that he has surpassed football legend Pelé for the most World Cup goals before the age of 24. The former Brazilian player scored 7 World Cup goals before turning 24. 23-year-old Mbappe now has 9. Not to go down without a fight, Poland's Robert Lewandowski scored a consolation goal from a penalty kick. Now, in a match to determine who will face France in Saturday's quarter-final showdown, England came out on top in a 3-0 win against Senegal. Now, the Three Lions clashed with the Lions of Teranga at Al Bayt Stadium, where Senegal had a good chance to open the scoring, but were denied by England goalkeeper Jordan Pickford. England then responded with a goal by Jordan Henderson off a pass from Jude Bellingham. England doubled their lead with a second goal in first-half injury stoppage time from captain Harry Kane. The second half saw more of the same, with England's final goal coming on a Phil Foden pass to the legs of a Senegalese defender before a gentle finishing chip over the goalkeeper by Bukayo Saka. Now, South Korea has been making noise at the World Cup, both on the pitch and in the stands. According to FIFA, during the group stage matches, Korean fans in the match against Uruguay made the most noise recorded in the tournament so far, at 131 decibels, a noise level equivalent to a rock concert. The noise data for the final group stage matches is still being compiled, including for South Korea's deciding game against Portugal. Now, the group stages of the Qatar 2022 World Cup have been like no other, filled with shocking match upsets and new records. No side won all 3 group games, and Qatar became the first host nation to lose all its group stage games. Records were also set for spectator attendance in the group stages, coming to 2.45 million people, the World Cup's highest ever group stage attendance. And finally, a quick look at some of the upcoming World Cup fixtures. The next 2 matches will see 4 teams in the round of 16 battle it out for a place in the quarterfinals. First up will be Japan against Croatia at Al Janoub Stadium at 12 a.m. Korea time. There, Japan will be looking to find their way to the World Cup quarterfinals for the first time in its history. Then all eyes in South Korea will be firmly glued to the screen as the national team goes up against FIFA world-ranked #1, Brazil. The match between South Korea and Brazil will take place at 4 a.m. Korea time at Stadium 974.
Good morning. It feels like -9 degrees Celsius here in the capital, and highs will hike to 2 degrees this afternoon, but cold winds will make it still feel sub-zero all day today. I mean, it was just last Monday we were having highs in the upper teens across Korea, but since then we've had some intense cold days. Cold wave alerts remain in place for northern parts of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do provinces this morning, with morning temperatures beginning below -10 degrees Celsius there. And the dry weather warning has also been in effect for the east of Gangwon-do, and the rest of the inland areas are under a dry weather advisory. Be extra careful with anything that could start a fire. Afternoon highs in Seoul will be topping out at 2 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Daegu, Gyeongju at 5 degrees, and mostly sunny skies are expected nationwide today. There could be a light mix of rain or snow in western regions tomorrow at dawn, while the cold snap eases tomorrow afternoon, returning to norms by the middle of the week. With that in mind, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for our Tuesday's edition at the same time. Please stay with Arirang News though for more updates throughout the day. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and take care.
백섬에